Hey everybody, so this week's video is going to be about the 5 natural emotions. And I've talked about this in the past in another blog, but I wanted to revisit it. It didn't have a video attached to it, and I also want to put this on YouTube. So the book, Conversations with God, talks about the 5 natural emotions so we can be healthier, we can be more authentic, and we can be listening to our emotions as a guide and as a GPS to navigate our lives. So when we feel something, it's necessary. When we feel emotions, they're protecting us. They're helping us navigate life. And by pushing them down and stuffing them down, not only are we not listening in order to make better decisions, but over time, we're causing ourselves harm. If you think about any kind of dam, pushing things down, ultimately it's going to burst. And we see people like that, right? We see people that are not in touch with their emotions. They don't talk about how they feel. And then they're having outbursts inappropriately because it doesn't match the situation, because all of those feelings are just stuffed down and pressed down and compressed down. So I'll go over the 5 emotions with you. Hopefully this will help you in some way and you'll be able to use it as a future reference. So the first emotion is grief. Now, grief is a natural emotion when we lose something. It's dealing with loss. So it can be losing a loved one, it can be losing a job, it can be losing money, it can be losing anything and everything. It can be losing a marriage. And it's about really going through the grieving process and acknowledging the loss that that's brought you in order to come out the other side of it. So it's crying. It can be moaning. It could be very primal. It could be anything that helps us be in a state of really dealing with our loss in a way that it's a release. And if we don't do that, and we stuff down the sadness, and we don't walk through our emotions, and we pretend they don't exist, our grief can turn into chronic depression. It's taking something, it's taking sadness, and it's stuffing it down, and then feeling sadness about something else and stuffing it down, and the sadness just builds up over time until we just feel sad about life and depressed about life and hopeless about life because we're not connecting with our sadness. So it's interesting to me too, whenever I see somebody crying or you see somebody on TV being interviewed and they cry, the first thing they do is they cover their face and they apologize. And I always think it's kind of interesting that we do that because the other person isn't asking you to apologize. The other person isn't asking us to explain ourselves. They know why we're crying. And to not be ashamed of our emotions to other people, but also to ourselves. And I think that we do that a lot. And then that's when we start pushing things down and we just don't recognize it. And then it shows up in other ways at other times. The next natural emotion is anger. Anger is a response to somebody crossing our boundaries. It can be somebody has taken something from us, somebody has embarrassed us, somebody has taken liberties with us. It's a natural response to needing boundaries with somebody else where we feel we need to fight back and protect ourselves. And by suppressing that and just pushing it down all the time, it becomes rage. And that's when, somebody says the smallest thing and we're just lashing out all over the place because we have this anger, we have this fire inside of us that is constantly stewing. And it's going to impact the way that we feel. If you think about just heat inside of you all the time, you're going to explode. It's like a boiler. It just, and all of a sudden, this anger comes out at times that it doesn't even match the situation. And it's important to recognize our anger, calm down first. I think we've all been guilty of that, including myself. Calm down first and then be able to approach it as best we can where we're not angry, but to have the confidence and the sovereignty that we are allowed to express our opinion. We are allowed to say no. We are allowed to say this doesn't feel appropriate. We are allowed to say I'm not comfortable with this. And the more that we don't do that, and the more that we feel pushed into things and taken advantage of, that anger is going to continue to grow and grow and grow until it becomes rage. And that's when we become dangerous. The next natural emotion is envy. Envy is a natural response to seeing somebody have something that we don't have. And it can be very positive. It can be like, hey, I'm looking at you and you have something that I want. How can I get it? How can I replicate it? What are you doing to get it? And if we're not able to recognize the envy that we have in our heart and not see it as a bad thing, see it as a good thing, see it as something that we need to experience, to recognize something that we don't have that somebody has that we want and be able to go after it, it won't become jealousy. And this is something that I see a lot of. I see a lot of jealousy with people. People are so concerned about what everybody else is doing because they don't have that. And it's like, well, then try and go out and get it. And if you can't, find something that you can do that will at least replicate that the best that you can given your circumstances. Use those people as a role model. If somebody else can do something, you can do it too. If you can't do it on the same scale that they can, at least you can have an essence of that in your life. Use it as inspiration, not in a way that becomes hateful towards another person because they have something that you don't, and then we do everything we can to insult them, put them down, remind them that they're not as important as they think they are because we think they're so important. We see them have something that we don't want them to have or that we want, and that in our mind makes them seem more important. It's our issue. It's not their issue. Even if somebody were to have something that we want and they're proud of that, it's not really our issue. We have our own lives to focus on. Life will give us enough challenges and enough things to think about and enough things to fix that we don't have to worry about what other people are doing, what other people have, what other people are experiencing. And also in my experience, we all have cycles. We have cycles where we're doing really well and other people aren't. And then we're not doing so well and other people are. So there's also this whole cyclical part of life as well. So again, instead of feeling jealousy and having so much hate in our hearts, look at that as inspiration. What can I do to get that? And realize, if nothing else, that we want it. The next one is fear. Now, we're in a situation that we don't feel safe. And I found it very interesting, and I'm going to look up the person's name. Gavin D. Becker wrote a book, The Gift of Fear, Survival Signals That Protect Us from Violence. And what he found from his research is that there was a very high percentage of people that would not have gotten hurt or been the victims of some kind of assault if they would have listened to their fear and said, I'm not getting on that elevator. I'm not giving you a ride home. I'm not going to be alone with you. I'm not going to do these things. They kind of had that fear. And no surprise, mostly with women, we were afraid to offend somebody, to embarrass somebody. So we went along with something that didn't feel completely safe to us. And then we got hurt. So that fear inside of us should be something that we listen to and respect and act on. If we don't listen to our fears and we're putting ourselves in dangerous situations, ultimately we're going to feel panic all the time. We're going to be afraid every time somebody comes to the door. We're going to be afraid every time somebody looks at us strangely. It's important to recognize the fear that we have that's justified and is trying to protect us so we can protect ourselves so we don't live in a state of panic. Last one is love. When we do not recognize the love that we have for somebody else and the love that we need for somebody else in a healthy way, we become possessive. When it's conditional, when if this person loved me, they would fill in the blank. Instead of accepting people for who they are and what they can give us, and if it's not enough, we can get love elsewhere, even if it's just from ourselves, and constantly be asking for someone to love us differently than they do, needing them to love us differently than they can, we become possessive, and it's a very, very, very unhealthy version of love because we can't love fully. We're always wondering what they're doing. We're always thinking they're going to leave us. So it's about taking love in a really healthy way, recognizing what we need, loving unconditionally, and making sure that we get our needs met. So those are the 5 emotions. I'll finish the video with, I think the most important part of this is just to recognize that we are all individuals. We're going to react differently to different situations, given our experiences, given our disposition, given many, many, many factors, and to respect our experience on earth, to respect the emotions that are inside of us, to take them as signals, to appreciate that we do feel things, appreciate the fact that we might feel something that we've always been told is negative, and it's not necessarily negative. It is a survival technique. It's there for a reason if it's used properly. If it's not used properly, it goes to those extremes, and it doesn't make our life an enjoyable experience, and it doesn't let us appreciate the good times if we're always in a panic, if we're always depressed, if we're constantly jealous of other people, if we can only love conditionally, feeling like we're just ready to lose it at any given moment because we have so much rage inside of us. All those things are what a friend of mine used to call a net negative. It subtracts, it never gives, it just subtracts. And it affects other people in a way that they can't have a healthy relationship with you. And if they are in a situation with you that is difficult for them to leave for whatever circumstances, you're going to affect and impact other people negatively as well. So I hope this video helps you in some way, even if you can take a little bit of it, something that you're doing, and realize it's not really working for you, and how can you change this? It's about feeling peace within. If you like this video, please like and comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and pass it on if you think somebody you care about should see this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.